This is the City of Winston-Salem's ARPA monthly community engagement meeting. I know we have a few people watching on YouTube as well. We're going to give it just another minute or two, and then we'll get started. So we'll start right at 12:02. Right at 12:01, 12:02, we'll go ahead and get started here. Know that we have one person here in the Zoom directly, but I do believe there are more than 20 people watching via YouTube. So again, good afternoon and welcome to the City of Winston-Salem's monthly ARPA community engagement meeting. My name is Scott Tesh. I am the city's budget and performance management director. As we do each month, we'll do an update on what City Council has adopted and the items that have come before them relative to the ARPA coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds, or the $51.7 million that the city has received. We will spend a more significant amount of time today talking about the upcoming nonprofit transformational grant process that will be taking place, and we've got some details to discuss with that. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And for those watching on YouTube, we will be trying to look at the comments in YouTube. If you have questions and want to submit them there, we will do our best to catch those as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And hopefully, Kimberly, could you tell me, are you seeing the PowerPoint presentation?
You're good to go, Scott.
Okay, thanks, Meredith. We were having a little bit of struggle in presentation mode, so I'm going to leave it in this mode as we go through the slides to ensure that everyone can see them. So we're going to talk today again about the current programs that we have and a few updates related to the eviction diversion program, our crime prevention plan, and the recovery grants program that was administered through the United Way. And then spend a good chunk of time talking about the upcoming application process for the nonprofit transformational grants and the scoring matrix that City Council approved for staff to use to evaluate those applications as they come in. As you see here, questions, comments, concerns at any time. This is really an informal session, a back and forth, a dialogue between us and the community. So we welcome any questions that you have. Want to start with the framework here, and I can zoom in just a hair, hopefully, and make it a little more visible for you. This is the framework that City Council has been working off of with respect to the $51.7 million. The things you see up there in phase one programs are items that the City Council has already approved, and then you see at the bottom the future phases, kind of the buckets of funding that City Council has been looking at for the more transformational nature of the future phases of the coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds. We'll note as we talk about this, those things at the top, again, City Council has already approved policy-wise. The things at the bottom are part of an evolving framework. Most of those have not been appropriated yet, but you may see items coming before the City Council in the coming months respective to many of these. So jump right in, kind of the program overview, details for phase one programs. The first one I want to talk about is the Community Violence Intervention Program at $1.35 million. We've had a couple of community events with the police department where they did firearms buyback programs. There has been, and again, this was all set out in the city's budget back in July, have hired someone in the recreation department to do youth violence prevention management. That has stayed the same. The $350,000 for the pre-K initiative was approved by the mayor and city council in July as well, and that hasn't changed. The one change here is the cure violence model that the city is looking at potentially partnering with Forsyth County and using $750,000 over a 3-year period, or $250,000 a year for that evidence-based program. So just a quick update on the cure violence model and what council will be looking at and approving, and potentially the city working with Forsyth County on. If you have any specific questions about that, feel free to email or contact staff, and we can get you additional information on that program. Quick note on the eviction diversion program. That is a $100,000 financial contribution to Legal Aid of North Carolina to help provide free legal representation to those who may be facing eviction proceedings. We have a contract in place and are working for a period of performance to begin in July. I believe Legal Aid is working through the administrative assistance that they will need for that program, whether it be clerical or paralegal in nature, but that program is slated to begin on July 1st. So a quick update there. And then the last one, in terms of phase 1 programs, the recovery grant program, for which $3 million was allocated to small businesses and small nonprofits to help with back payments on rent, mortgage, and utilities. That application period has officially ended, and the United Way received roughly $500,000 worth of applications. 200,000 of those roughly are going to be paid out very soon, and there are an additional 300,000 in the pending category that didn't have quite the correct documentation. We'll be reaching back out to see if we can work with entities on getting that documentation. So wanted to give the community a heads up as to where that recovery grants program was in terms of funding. I will kind of move right into what I believe the majority of this presentation will kind of focus on, which is the upcoming nonprofit Transformative Grants program. And I've got a couple of things to share, and we'll talk through kind of how these are going to be evaluated, as well as what the application is going to look like. We are still working with the vendor to get it in a final format, to get it in the portal. It will be available sometime next week. And we will let the community know through a massive marketing campaign when it becomes available. When it does, it will be open for an entire month. Our plan is to allow the application to be open for about a week, and then to come back and have another meeting of this nature to talk specifically about the application, where we can screen share it. And if anyone's having issues around how to fill out a part of the application or specific definitions or anything like that, we did want to give the community roughly a week to get into the application, to see it, to work with it and see if there were any specific details, and then come back like we normally do with our community agencies process and have an opportunity for agencies to ask questions and kind of have a back and forth. So this transformative grants process was approved by council. The idea is to partner with local nonprofits to create the greatest transformational change in some of those very high strategic areas in the city's strategic plan. General scope, and I think we've talked about this a couple of times, but summary wise, eligibility is open only to nonprofits. It is not capped with a minimum or a maximum amount of funding requests. So you could ask for as little as technically $1. There is no maximum funding amount either. I will show you the scoring matrix here, which was attached to the city council item that they reviewed, that staff will be using to evaluate the applications. I do want to note here, I think the question has come up several times, how much funding has been allocated to this program? And it really is a TBD. So the applications will come in, they will be evaluated by staff, proposed by management, and sit to the mayor and city council for review. And it will ultimately be up to the mayor and city council to determine how much funding to make available for our partnerships throughout the community for any number of these programs that they deem necessary and a priority. We will talk in the framework about where that money is expected to come from, but there is no specific amount that is set aside for this. We talked about the application going live next week and the session. So what I'm going to do at this point is kind of jump in to the scoring matrix itself and talk about what the application is going to look like so that you can get a feel for the types of information that you may need to collect, that you may need to be thinking about here, with a couple of days before this application process opens. So the application is going to follow this scoring matrix. The first couple of screens of the application will be some basic information like you'll normally see. So we'll ask for your name, contact information, 501c3 designation status, board chair information, some of that kind of general information. There'll be another page that just kind of asks you what is the title of the project and a very brief description for like location of the project and things of that nature, as well as a primary contact. We'll ask you kind of in narrative form, what is this project? It'll be limited to a certain number of characters, but want to know generally what the project is, how people are going to access the project, how many participants you expect to use the service, and we'll ask some high-level questions about total operating and or capital budget in your request. So this is a good point to note to the community. The ARPA funds, the city will allow applications for both operating or capital assistance, but you will need to mark in the application how much you're asking for. I will also stop here to say, if you are an organization that has more than one program, for which you want to submit an application, feel free to reach out to staff. But what we would tell you on the front end is we would like to see an application for each program that you would intend to fund. If it is one program and it has sub-programs, that's fine. But if it's two completely different things, you may want to submit separate applications for two completely different programs. So getting into kind of how the scoring matrix is going to work, there'll be a screen for basically each one of these columns you see. For demographic distribution, what that really gets into, and you'll see in the questions, the final rule from ARPA relative to how the money can be spent and how U.S. Treasury has provided guidance on it, allows for expanded uses and specifically looking for the funding to be used in an equitable way. It allows for the funding to be used in what are called qualified census tracts, which are census tracts that are low income in nature, but are specifically denoted by HUD as being qualified based on certain income thresholds. If you are helping or assisting participants, residents in qualified census tracts, you will get a higher amount of points in the demographic distribution area. If you are helping residents or participants that are outside of those qualified census tracts, but still meet the same income criteria, you'll still get points in this area. But that demographic distribution piece is designed around who you are helping and where you're helping them. So the next part of the application that you'll see is going to be related to the city's strategic plan and whether or not your program has alignment to the plan. The plan has 3 tiers, and you'll get a certain number of points based on whether your program aligns to a top tier priority or another tier. The next thing you see there is collaboration. City Council has identified that they would like to not have redundant services be funded and that community partners are working with each other to stand up the best programs that they can. So funding will be, scoring will be allocated to those organizations who have shown that they reached out and attempted to collaborate with other stakeholders in the community as part of their program that they're requesting funding for. Next on administration and reporting. So being that this money comes from the federal government, it does have a lot of federal strings attached to it. Specifically, there are a lot of reporting requirements. So there is a section that will ask you some basic questions about how Treasury needs the reporting, specifically for how you would report outcomes but there's also a risk matrix that we will ask you to fill out. It's a spreadsheet that is linked to the application. It's required for subrecipient monitoring as part of a federal grant. So it gives staff an idea of where you are with some of your internal controls and how your finance system works and how you fall in terms of priority for subrecipient monitoring. Next is capacity. So there'll be a series of questions basically judging is the program that you're putting forward aligned with your mission? Is it in line with current services that you provide? Do you have staff in place to provide those services or can scale up to do it? Do the staff who would be providing them have expertise and experience in these areas? So really trying to judge, does the organization have the capacity to implement the program the way that the application is put forward? In terms of impact and community needs, I'm going to ask you to define the community need, use specific data where you can to show that community need. And then in terms of the impacts, what are the short-term and long-term impacts of the program that you intend to put forward? Moving right along, so the next area is funding stability. We'll be looking at this in basically two different categories. The organization as an entity, are you financially stable? So are we able to look at financial statements? Do you have an audit or another review that suggests that your statements are materially in order and that you don't have any internal financial problems at the time? And then the second piece of that will be the program that you're putting forward. What is the long-term financial stability of that program? If ARPA is one-time funding in nature that you're requesting, and let's say you have a $1 million program and you're requesting $1 million from city ARPA funds, do you have, after that money would expire, do you have a plan for how the program would be sustainable after that? The application will allow you to also attach commitment letters if you have any from some of those other funding partners as well. And then the last piece that you see on there is representation. So we'll allocate points based on the representation of your board and how it matches the demographics of the community, and want to ensure there that the diversity of the board matches the diversity of our community and that there is good and intentional thought happening around how you represent and provide programs throughout the community. At the end of the application, for those of you that are familiar with the city's normal annual process, there is one last page that asks you to attach a few things, including a code of conduct, your bylaws, articles of incorporation, 501c3 designation letter, and things of that nature. That will be an exact copy of what we have in the current annual community agencies process. So again, those of you who have applied with the city before will have seen that. It's the same information. We are going to ask you to upload it to the system, even if you've applied through another process through the city. Want to make sure that that information is up to date and that you provide it here. So I believe that's all we've got in terms of the scoring matrix. I've got the framework up here again. If anyone has any questions about any of the phase one programs or anything in the future, anything they may have heard in the community, I'm more than happy to take some time here, whether we have questions here in the Zoom or if there are any on the YouTube channel that we can find, would love to answer those. So I will kind of open the floor up. Someone wanted to know if I could make the screen bigger. Thank you, Larry. The answer to that is yes, I can. And is there a specific slide? It's probably relative to this scoring matrix. So let me kind of scroll down. Hopefully, we'll make this a little larger so that everyone can see it. And again, I'm sorry it's not in presentation mode. I had an issue with Zoom and just wanted to make sure that we had this. All of this information is available on the city's website. You can also go through the agenda system for the city through the city's website and see this information and any of the discussion that mayor and city council had at finance committee or otherwise. If you have any questions, don't hesitate again to reach out to staff. We are here, but what we would like to do again is open this application process next week. market it very heavily, wait about a week, and then have another meeting where we allow everyone to come back and ask some more detailed questions about the application itself. So I will, like I said, kind of turn it over to anyone here in the Zoom. If you have a question, feel free to unmute or throw something in the chat. And I will see if I can grab anything. If there's anything else on YouTube, let me pull that up. I'm going to stop my screen share here for a second. So any questions from anyone in the Zoom? Going to take that as a no. Like I said, I do believe we have some folks. I'm going to pull up the city's YouTube page here in the back. It says that we have more than 40 people watching this. Oh, that's wonderful. The only thing I see over here in the chat was the request to make it larger. I don't see anything else there. So, like I said, all of this information will be available on the city's webpage. Want to be as open and transparent as we can be about this process. Once applications come in, there will be a panel of staff doing preliminary evaluations with the scoring matrix that we just went through. Those scores will be tiered, provided to the city's management team, and ultimately to the mayor and city council, and it will be up to the elected officials to make decisions, as they always do, regarding which programs might be funded in which areas, and the amount of funding that they may provide to some of those. Are faith-based nonprofits eligible? So the answer to that question is, as they are in the normal city process, the answer to that is yes. So a faith-based organization must be providing a public purpose, and in so doing would be eligible as you have been for other city programs, grant programs like this in the past. So thank you for that question. This is a good one. And I will stay on here for a few minutes in case there are other questions that pop up either via YouTube or otherwise. How do I apply and how do I get into the Zoom? So I'm reading that from the YouTube page. In terms of the application is going to be open next week. It will be through the neighborly application. So again, those of you who have applied with the city before, you will be familiar with the portal itself. It's relatively user-friendly, but we will have an additional meeting and actually walk specifically through the entire application after it's gone live to give everyone, again, a week or so to get into it and see if there are any specific questions that you have. So the application will be open next week. It will be marketed heavily via social media and other platforms. We also have a list of all of the nonprofits that have requested funding, either by sending us something directly or that have requested funding through any of our other annual community agencies process. That's a list of more than, I think, 350 organizations. We'll be direct emailing all of those organizations that we have on file. So here, when will decisions be made? So the tentative timeline here, another great question. What we showed to the city council, the application process will be opening next week. So we have told the city council we will leave it open for 4 weeks, which will give everyone an opportunity to get in, see the application, collect any necessary materials, and fill out all of the sections so that it can be scored appropriately. Will be open again for 4 weeks. And then depending on how many applications we get is how long it will take city staff to evaluate those. Our peer communities have received, in some cases, more than 200 applications. Forsyth County as well received many applications, although their process was open to for-profit entities as well. So that number may be skewed a little bit from what Forsyth County got. I think the intent is to spend roughly a month doing the preliminary evaluation of those. If this is process opens here in March, it would be open through almost the end of April for the application period. Hopefully by the end of May, staff would have had an opportunity to evaluate them, and council would hopefully have this on their radar in June for discussion and approval. Let me see here. We got a couple of other questions here. Is there a specific city contact for this program? I will provide the contact information here at the end. You may contact me directly. We did have an ARPA coordinator. That person has left, and there is an email address that I will grab here and share just a second. There's a couple of other questions that we'll get to, and I will share that specific email address, and I'll provide mine directly as well. Are new organizations able to apply? That is another great question. A nonprofit must have been in business for an entire year to be able to apply. That is one of our standard criteria that we use in our annual community agencies process, and we are using it in this as well. So you must have been incorporated as a 501c3 at least a year before the application period opens. Where can I find the city strategic plan? The city strategic plan is currently in the agenda materials, but we will have it out on the, it will be twofold. It'll be on the city's website. It will be directly linked to the application. And then also in the application, there will be a breakdown of all of the individual priorities as well. So you'll actually, in the application, will see all of the city council's priorities by tier and have can select from those, but we will make, we'll get the link to the city's strategic plan on the website out as well. Give me just 1 second. I'll pull that up and then I'll try and put it in the chat for us so that everyone will have it. Again, we will stay here for a couple of minutes. I appreciate staff, specifically Meredith Martin, who's our deputy budget director, is helping, as well as Larry in marketing, kind of get some of these questions out of the YouTube channel back into Zoom so that I can see them. But we will hang around here for a couple of minutes. Feel free to enter any of those questions and we will try to get to all of them.
Scott, we have one question via YouTube. If organizations funded last year or were funded last year, are they eligible to apply again this year?
So I guess I would in terms of having applied last year, so this ARPA process is a one-time process. Does not matter if you've applied for funding either through the city's normal community agencies process or through one of the other processes that was open, either the CIRC process or the COVID-19 relief fund. So if you have applied in the past through any of those, you are not prohibited from submitting an application through this process at all. That is a great question. Thank you, Meredith.
Scott, can organizations come in or set an appointment for the grant?
Can an organization, did you say set an appointment for the grant?
Yes, sir.
In terms of setting an appointment, I would have to better understand exactly what that question entails. The application is done through an online portal. You can contact staff directly, and we would be more than happy to answer any specific details you have about the application. but I don't know that we would be setting up like one-on-one to discuss how the program works prior to the application being submitted. We would be able to answer technical questions about how you entered into the fields of the application, but probably would not be appropriate to have a back and forth with potential applicants on how specific entries would be scored or evaluated. So I would say we'll provide our contact information, reach out to us. Anything we can do, we would be more than happy to help you with. And again, I'll kind of throw my direct contact information here into the Zoom if anyone wants to use it. Also from YouTube, there is a, and we can get this posted on there for you to come back to. There is a CLFRF web page on the city's website that will have all of this information. It will be the resource, the web page to go to. It should be cityofws.org/CLFRF, which is Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. So you should be able to find a lot of the pertinent information that you need right there on that page. Again, we'll hang out here for a couple of minutes. Make sure if people are coming in a few minutes late and have questions, that we're more than happy to hang around for just a minute and get to those. I will try here, since the question came up, to go through the city strategic plan kind of at a high level. So I'm going to try and screen share this. Hopefully everyone is seeing the city strategic plan. The city strategic plan is broken down into several tiers, 3 tiers, and just kind of at a high level, I'll hit on the priorities that are in here. And again, you'll see these in the application process. There are 6 focus areas in the plan related to local economy, safe and secure community, livable neighborhoods, quality transportation, commitment to service excellence, and so on. But I think the question is probably more specific about when you look at the strategic plan, and what you see in the application will be these priorities. So each priority has a series of action items. The action items are things that the city staff will be working with and working on. For the application process, you need to focus on where your program might fit in terms of a priority. So here, the first priority in tier 1 related to focusing on job creation and workforce development, also with knowing what was happening with the pandemic, with a specific importance to the local travel and tourism economy, also small businesses. Another priority related to collaborating with respect to pre-K programming. Obviously, as we saw in the framework, there was $20 million set aside for affordable housing. So one of the city's priorities, top tier priorities, is related to funding affordable housing development. Priority 4 related to economic development. I will say generally, economic development is not one of the allowable pieces of the American Rescue Plan monies that the city has. However, if you have something that's related to job training and workforce development, that is very much a component of it. But economic development, building out additional sites and infrastructure may not be eligible. So additional priorities here related to poverty, reducing poverty and eliminating barriers to economic mobility. Priority 6 is really kind of where we're at now in terms of reopening the economy and lessening the impacts of COVID-19 on the local community. Priority 7 related to kind of maximizing neighborhood engagement and civic engagement throughout the city, both neighbors with each other and with the city, so that there's a constant flow of communication back and forth. Priority number 8 related to the local arts and public art. So moving into tier 3, the priority related to fundraising efforts is really kind of, again, part of what we're doing now, but helping nonprofits build the capacity to do transformative things in the community and being very supportive of that. Priority number 10 related to sustainability and supporting the green economy. Number 11, you see there's a set aside in the framework related to the digital divide, but any infrastructure, equipment, education that can be provided in the technology field. Child care needs, in addition to pre-K, the City Council discussed and was looking at innovative ways that we might be able to help with the ever-expanding need for childcare and the cost associated with it. Priorities 13 and 14 are kind of related to physical changes in the environment. So 14 very much specific to transportation infrastructure. 13, some infrastructure in there, but also kind of reinvestment in neighborhoods and neighborhood aesthetics. And the last couple of priorities in tier 3, 15 is really organizationally talking about eliminating duplication of services and ensuring that we're working efficiently and effectively with the resources we have. And the last thing we have there, kind of law enforcement reform and additional things we can do with respect to policing that are innovative in nature. So I do appreciate the question about the strategic plan. Have shared it here very quickly. We'll throw the link in here to where you can get to it. And well, let me see if we have other questions that have popped up here. So a very specific question: what if you have a 501c3 status for over a year but have yet to provide services? We've been completing planning. We're doing a pilot program. So the minimum requirement is that you have been incorporated for a year. We don't have anything specifically in the details disallowing an organization who is not actively providing services from applying. So I would tell you, per the minimum criteria, you would be able to apply. So feel free to do so. When we get to the capacity sections of the evaluation, you may want to spend some very specific time explaining how you have the capacity in administrative and reporting backgrounds to do this if you've not been providing services during that year where you've been technically incorporated. So got the one that talks about making an appointment. Again, feel free to reach out to staff. We would love to be of assistance any way that we can in terms of answering questions. Let me, I think I got one via email here as well. Let me pull up my email. See here, Larry. So got that one. Can a person come in and apply? So right now, and that may be the same thing in terms of making an appointment to come in and apply, the application process is done via, and I'm sorry if I misinterpreted that question, it is going to be done via an online portal. The information has to be filled out currently in that online portal. If you are having specific issues with that portal, city staff will work with you and ensure that we get an application from you if you would like to submit one. So again, reach out directly and we'll work with you as we can. I do believe that the portal will be pretty simple to use. You just kind of create your own username. It will log you right in and you can go through each one of the sections. At the end, it will just ask you to submit it and it will come straight to us for review. What if your organization doesn't fit these priorities? Substance abuse, restorative justice, which don't appear to fit in the priorities. Is it still worth applying? So I can't tell you whether it's worth applying or not. What I will tell you is we've kind of walked through the scoring matrix, and that is how staff will be providing a preliminary evaluation of those items. I will tell you in certain of those cases, things related to substance abuse and restorative justice may be linked strategically to, in some ways, depending on how the program is formatted, reducing barriers to economic mobility, which may have alignment to the second tier of the strategic plan. So I would think through that kind of alignment function to the plan. And we'll also tell you, ultimately, the mayor and city council are making these decisions. So we will be providing recommendations based on the evaluation from the scoring matrix as a tool, but that is not going to preclude anything from being funded that may be at one level or another of that scoring. Ultimately, all of those decisions will be made by the mayor and city council, and they can choose the programs that they want. So as to whether it's worth applying, that's really kind of up to you and whether you want to spend the time filling out the application. We hope that you do. We would love to see innovative ideas. Even if something doesn't get funded through this process, it would be great to know those types of ideas that are out in the community. And if another opportunity were to come up in the future, we would be more than happy to reach out about those potential opportunities for things that aren't funded through this process. So Meredith, do we have the ARPA email address set up?
Yes, sir.
Is it just ARPA or is it ARPA CLFRF? I want to make sure I didn't get it wrong.
ARPA, ARPA at cityofws.org.
There we go. So thank you, Meredith. I appreciate that. Again, that's ARPA, ARPA at cityofws.org. You can send all of your questions to that and it will filter right through directly to staff. And we'll be more than happy to answer those either via email or give you a call if it's something more substantive that we need to discuss with you. Looks like we've dwindled down just a hair on the number of people watching on YouTube. Let me see. Oh, wow, there are quite a few comments here. Strategic plan. Yeah, let me get the link to the strategic plan and we will provide that. I've got it right here. So I will attempt to put this link. I'm going to put the link for the strategic plan in the Zoom, and I'm going to try and put it in YouTube too. It's directly to the city's agenda system, and you will can also go into the agenda system. You can see the presentations that have been done to city council as well, or again, go to our cityofws.org/CLFRF, and you'll find more information there as well. Let me go back to the YouTube page. Oh, it's making me sign in. Hold on 1 second.
Staff will also link the strategic plan to the direct transformational grant page. So please feel free to visit the website that Scott just mentioned, cityofws.org/CLFRF.
Thank you, Meredith. All right. Larry, I got your email and I just sent you back the link to drop in there. I think I've got signed in where I can do it as well. So for those of you that are on the city's YouTube page, you'll see a link that was just dropped in. Joseph Tesh, that's me. Note on council member. I would like to know who are staff members that we can reach out to. You can reach out directly to me. Be more than happy to have that conversation with you. Make sure I haven't missed anything in Zoom here. All right. So I think I've gotten everything in the chat in Zoom. And again, Meredith, thank you so much for copying many of those over. And I believe that there are the links coming through. So Larry, thank you for posting that one. All right, well, we will hang out for just a few more minutes, see if anybody has any other questions. Appreciate greatly their participation happening through the city's YouTube channel, having at one point more than 40 participants. I think 45 was the number. So I'm glad that we had a good number of people here to share information with. We would ask you, please feel free to share this information with other nonprofit entities that you come into contact with, other people that you know, with your networks. And let them know that we will be opening the process next week, that we will have another meeting to go through the application, and tell them if they would like to see this presentation and the questions that were answered, it will be on the city's YouTube page, so that they can go out and watch it at their leisure, or if you need to rewatch it at any point, it will be out there saved for you. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself. Kimberly, I see there that you've asked for the link. I got your email and just shot it to you. I'm going to put myself on mute, and I will unmute as questions pop in here over the course of the next couple of minutes. But again, we'll see if anyone else has any questions via the YouTube. I do see a comment out there on YouTube about the Zoom link availability. We'll ensure that we work with our marketing department, see if there's any issues with getting access to the Zoom link. But again, very much appreciate everyone coming in through YouTube as well. I see someone echoing that that question regarding access. That is something that we will ensure that we look at, and that we get the Zoom link out so that anyone who wants to physically come into the meetings that way in the future. Again, these are this meeting is a monthly meeting that we have. They alternate between days and time of day. So we have been alternating, I think, between the lunch hour and then a 6 o'clock evening meeting. So next month's meeting will most likely be in the evening. But we will obviously, as we've discussed here, a little more than a week out, we'll have another one of these that we will market and get the Zoom link out for any application questions that may arise.
To gain access to the mailing list, please feel free to email the arpa@cityofws.org to have, and just request your information be added to that email list.
would note to that as well, that is a nonprofit distribution list that we use for other community agency processes as well. So if we add you to that list, you will be on the list to receive communications regarding our annual community agencies process, as well as anything else that is set up directly for that purpose. So for instance, the COVID-19 Relief Fund, as well as the CERC process that took place, I believe last year, you will be on kind of the distribution list for when community agency opportunities for funding come through budget performance management department. There's something on the YouTube page that says, why can't you respond to the Zoom questions? Let me make sure I'm not missing anything here in terms of the Zoom chat, but I only have one individual who's actually in the Zoom meeting. We will, so for the link to the strategic plan, we'll work with my web content coordinator. The link to the strategic plan will be at cityofws.org/CLFRF within, hopefully within the hour. So we'll have that up as well. So I have a question on here. Do hotels apply for grants? Only nonprofit entities are allowed to apply for these grants. So if you are a for-profit entity, you will not meet the minimum eligibility and you will not be scored. If you are a nonprofit who operates a hotel or some other performance space or anything like that, feel free to apply for funding. But that is going to be relative to the type of entity you are registered as, whether you are a 501c3 or one of those faith-based organizations that meets the public purpose requirements of state law and state constitution, or whether you are a private entity. If you are a private entity, you will not be allowed to apply for funding through this process. So I have tried to go out onto the YouTube page and put the link to the Zoom meeting. Again, it appears that many of the things that city staff is trying to link in the YouTube comments may not be working very well. Okay, Larry, gotcha. Let me see. Larry, I just sent you the link if you want to try and paste that. I tried to put it in the YouTube page. It shows that it's there, but again, I don't know that it's actually going through. And I do apologize for muting myself there for a second. I was talking through trying to find the link and get it out on the YouTube page. Hoping that marketing can do that for us in terms of the Zoom link. Looks like Larry, thanks. Looks like you've gotten that out there. Let's see if anyone else has an opportunity to get to that. Mr. Hassel? You are on mute, sir. There we go.
Yes.
Do you have a question or two that we can answer for you?
Well, I was watching you on YouTube and I had previewed the instructions, couldn't find your link at all.
We will ensure that we get the Zoom link out there on the webpage and that we do a better job working with our marketing staff to ensure that we've got it correctly. I do know that we've had some issues in the past with Zoom bombs, so we don't send the link out in advance. I want to make sure that it got out on the page correctly. If it didn't, I will apologize for that, and we will ensure that we do it in the future for you. Were there specific questions or issues about that program or anything else in the presentation that you had?
No, not particularly. I just wanted to be able to go back and review the information you kept alluding to. I tried to check on some of the links that you put on YouTube and they didn't work for me, but the Zoom link did for some reason.
I think
so that's why I'm here now.
I believe I was trying to put it on the YouTube channel, and I don't know that it was letting me do it personally. The link that you clicked on was directly from our marketing staff, so I believe it may be that our marketing staff is the only one that's allowed to share a link there for security reasons. I believe that's probably why that took place. So
let me see if I can recap a little bit. Basically, this program is you're going to put an application online for us to enter our information in, and we can use the chart that you put up earlier as a guide of what questions to answer when we do see that application. And then the following week, you'll go over that information with us on a similar Zoom meeting. Is that right?
Yeah, so we'll set up another Zoom meeting. We'll make sure we get the link out. The reason for that Zoom meeting, like I said, want to give you and other entities an opportunity to see the application, go through it, figure out if you have any questions. We'll set up that meeting so that you can come back and ask really detailed, specific questions. What does this mean? How should I be entering this data? It's a text field. I didn't expect it to be that kind of in the weeds, detailed types of questions. And what you'll see on the application, yes, sir, the sections of the application will mirror those things that we just talked about, and we will have the scoring matrix itself linked there so that you can literally click on the scoring matrix and see this is what I will be evaluated on, and click on the application, and here are the exact questions that link to how I'll be evaluated. We want to be as open and transparent as possible in how all of these programs will be evaluated when the applications come in. We're gonna give you the scoring rubric in advance.
Wonderful.
Yes, sir.
But this whole process is going to be completed in the next 30 days, you're saying?
So we will open the application portal next week. It will be open for 1 month. So you'll have a month to get your information in. And then how quickly those get to city council will be based on how many applications we get, honestly. We've got a limited number of staff to do the review. And if we get a manageable number, we're hoping to turn that around in a month. But if there is a significant influx that we're not expecting, it may take a little longer. It's really just relative to the volume of applications we get.
I see.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me jump back to the YouTube page and see if there's anything else that's popped up there. Yeah, Mr. Hassel, I saw your notes on YouTube about being on mute. I was on mute a couple of times. I was either kind of talking to myself or talking through a couple of things I was trying to get the links to. So I'm sorry. It probably looked like I was speaking to the computer, but I was turning to my monitor and trying to work through a few things. So I promise you didn't miss anything. All right. Well, again, we'll stay here for another minute or two. I don't see anything else popping up in YouTube, and I don't see anything else popping up here on the Zoom page in the chat, either staff or others sharing. So I hope that we've been able to answer as many questions as we can. Would love to, again, have that session here roughly 2 weeks out to get into the details of any of the questions that organizations have as they go through the application. So I'd say once you get a chance, once we open it, go through it. Really, any question you have, feel free to either email it to us or bring it to that meeting, and we will be more than happy to help any way we can. Definitely want to see it, as many applications, as much staff time as it might be to get a whole bunch. I think it would be great to get a lot of applications for a lot of innovative programs to help many people throughout the city. So.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. All right. Anything else popping up there in the YouTube channel for the last couple of minutes, other than someone signing off? So I'm going to go ahead and close the meeting out here. Again, if you have any questions, arpa@cityofws.org, or visit the city's website and get the information that you need. We will have the strategic plan posted out there. I appreciate everyone's time. For the roughly 50 or so who were here, both in person, through the Zoom and through the YouTube channel. Thank you. And we'll be back with another one of these next month, and another meeting again here in roughly 2 weeks to go through the application details for any questions that arise.